everyone, welcome back. So today I decided that I'm going to be doing my top favorite series of all time. Since I'm a new booktuber, I felt like this would be a really great way for you guys to get to know me, because I feel like what people say their favorite series are says so much about them. So I think I have about 7 series here. I only have the first copy of every book, because if I were to get out this entire series, that'd be a lot of books. So let's get right into it. So there's no really particular order in which I have the books. It's just what I have laid out in my chair in front of me. So whatever I pull up first is the first book. But I really do love these series almost equally when it's one of my top favorite series, I'll say. But honestly, when I was thinking of doing this video and I was choosing the series which I love, I kind of came to the realization that most of my favorite books are from series. I don't really have a lot of standalones that are my favorite books, and I feel like that has a lot to do with the fact because of series you kind of get to really get connected to these characters because you're reading so much about them and you learn so much about them to the point where it's like they become your friends. So I guess maybe that's why, but I don't know. I really don't have a lot of standalones which are my favorites, which is going to be the next video, which is my favorite standalones. But let's start with the first book. So the first book I have in my pile is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. So this book has a really, really special place in my heart because I'm fairly young, not too young, but I'm fairly young. So I barely started reading YA a couple of years ago. And the first YA novel that I really ever read was Miss Peregrine's. And not going to lie, when I first started reading it, it took me like a month because I was not ready to read these types of novels yet, and I don't know why I found it so difficult. Like, I used to think like the wording was so tiny, but it's really not. So I don't know, but it has such a special place in my heart, this entire book series. So Jacob Portman kind of starts in this book. He's thrown into this world where he learns a lot about himself, and he travels, I think it says, to Wales, where he meets Miss Peregrine and her peculiar children. And I don't want to give away too much. I think it's not necessarily the type of book where you have to go in without knowing, but it's definitely an adventure if you go in without knowing like I did. I just picked this up randomly and I was amazed, to say the least. As you can see, definitely one of my favorite books of all time. I mean, I love the quotes in here. I think I even have it highlighted. Let me see. Okay, so the first line in the book is, "I had just come to accept that my life would be ordinary when extraordinary things began to happen." And that's really the best way to describe this novel. It is so good. It's so creepy, and kind of look forward to seeing this book again during my fall recommendation list. And it just has a really special place in my heart. And I definitely need to reread it because it's been years since I've read the entire novels, and the newest one just came out, I think like a couple months ago. But I really need to reread the novels before I read that one, because I will have no recollection about it. Okay, so the next book that's on my pile is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Look at all these tabs I have. It's not really that much compared to everyone else, but this series, all of these books hold a special place in my heart, but this one in particular because I read this book, I think, back in middle school in a very, very, very crucial part of my life. I was going through these phases where I was like, oh, I'm not like the other girl, you know. I was like, oh, pink makeup, I only like to read, I only like Doctor Who and Sherlock Holmes, I don't do that girly stuff. And a lot of this came from, and I'm not saying any particular books, or am I saying that every single book was like that during the time when I was in middle school, but I felt like a lot of the literature I was reading with these female characters, these badass female characters who are great role models, but I feel like a lot of the time I felt like they were really one-dimensional. They were really tomboyish, like the only way a woman can save the world is if they were more masculine or more tomboyish, and ooh, I didn't like the color pink, or ooh, I don't wear dresses, I'm not into that girly girl stuff. And it really affected me when I was really young, so I kind of grew in this mentality of like, oh, I'm not like the other girls. And usually like the other girls, which are like the popular ones, the ones with like pink makeup, harmful stereotypes, but usually those girls in most of these novels were like the enemies, were like the main character's like enemy, or someone she hates, or someone who tried to get like at her love interest or something. And it really did create a really toxic kind of mindset for me. So when I picked up this novel and I started reading about Selena Sardothian, I think I pronounced that right, I learned from this novel that not just women, but people in general are not one-dimensional. It's usually not, oh, I'm a tomboy and I don't wear makeup and I don't like the color pink or dressing up, or, you know, and then the other side. Like, it's not just this one-dimensional, one-sided character, that people in general can be complex, and that it's like the first really complex female character which I've read, because I really enjoyed the fact that she's a really badass, cool character, being an assassin. I'll go more into the actual novel, but she's really badass, she's really cool, and in the same time though, she's like, oh, I also like to read, but I also love dressing up, and I love, you know, feeling really pretty, but I can beat your ass in heels. And I just was really intrigued by that, because it was nothing that I've ever seen before. And I kind of thought as a young person that you can only be this one-sided person and kind of fit into these stereotypes, and I didn't understand really that, oh, you could be all of that. You know, you can like wearing makeup and reading, and you don't have to follow these stereotypes, and you don't have to be one-dimensional, because people aren't one-dimensional. And I could literally go on talking about this for days. I was going to do a whole speech on it for my public speaking class, but I was like, maybe not. So let's get into what the actual novel is about, now that I talked about my significance. This, again, is one of my favorite all-time novels because of its significance and how much it's changed me. I feel like if it weren't for that, it would still probably be a good series. I don't know if it would be on this list still. I would like to think it would be, but it follows Selena Sardothian, who just got released from prison to serve as the king's champion. Well, it's a competition where I think, okay, if she defeats 23 killers, thieves, and warriors in a competition, will be released from prison to serve as the king's champion. And it kind of isn't filming. I don't know why. Every time I try to film, someone calls me, and I apologize. But as I was saying, that kind of follows all of that, her journey with that kind of thing in the first novel. But obviously, as you can see, it being a huge series, it becomes more complex. And I think the characters, I love Dorian. I love Dorian. But the characters, and I mean, I definitely love Selena. All these characters I feel like are really complex. I love the female relationships in these novels because I think it was really refreshing. The only thing is definitely these novels were exhausting. I was in a huge reading slump after I read these novels because I read them back to back. So I definitely 100% recommend this series if you want a really good just fantasy series. But this is not a book recommendation series. I'm sorry, video, so I need to stop. But that being said, if you are going to read it, do be careful, because after I finished reading it, I was exhausted. So I would recommend trying to read it in parts. So I would do like read the first book, then read like a contemporary novel, read the second book contemporary, third book contemporary, fourth book contemporary, stop for like a month or as long as you need until you know like, oh, I might forget this information, then go back. Thankfully, Sarah J. Maas, I love her work. I love all the books she's done. Definitely kind of steamy. I probably should have not read this book in middle school, but I think she does do a really good job every novel kind of explaining what happened in the last one. So again, definitely one of my favorite all-time books of huge significance. So this next book is called Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco, I think. This book series, I think it's 4, it's just amazing. This book, I think this book series really doesn't have any impactfulness in my like life. It's not like Throne of Glass that completely changed me as a person, but it's just this series is so good, and I mean incredibly good. So I was wrong. It was a trilogy. I just checked. But each one of her books kind of follows the main character, Audrey Rose, and kind of her little adventure. I don't really want to get much into it because this is not, you're not going to like die if you get to know a little bit about the novel, but it's definitely the type, I say this for every book really, but this one in particular, I just, going into it kind of blindsided just adds so much to the entire novel, and I love it. But I'm gonna read the back. It says he murdered, okay, Stalking Jack the Ripper, just gonna mention the title. He murdered women in cold blood. He terrorized an entire city. He taunted those of us who hunted him down, but despite all these horrors, in the end I could not deny it. I was the girl who loved the Ripper. Yes, the aesthetic, the vibes, Audrey Rose. There comes a character called Thomas who I absolutely fell in love with. Again, I think I read this back in middle school, and I named my teddy bear after him. I bought this teddy bear during the Christmas season years ago, and I fell in love with Thomas so much I had to name my teddy bear after him. And this bad boy has gone through it all with me. So definitely recommend. Again, not a recommendation video. I don't know why I keep doing that, but Stalking Jack the Ripper is kind of like, it really matches, I hate saying it, but like my aesthetic. It's like the type of video, the type of books that I like to read, kind of these dark gothic books that deal with like murder and are mysterious, and it's just an overall great series. And I think the relationship between Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell, I think that's his name, is to die for. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. So you can see this series gets me so excited. I'm so excited for the third book to come out. It follows, well, I mean, if you guys haven't read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, it basically follows this girl, Kath, who writes fan fiction about this one series. I forgot what it was called, but this one series, and it's basically Carry On. The main inspiration of it was like Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter from Harry Potter, but really there's some similarities, but it kind of stops most of it. It's an entire new thing. Everything about this novel, Simon Snow and Baz, their relationship is just amazing, and I think these books are incredible. They're completely magical, and I really love, again, the relationship between Simon Snow and Baz. I think like a thing that goes on with like my favorite books are like the relationships between characters, because I mean, you don't want to read a book with characters that really don't have the best relationship. So I'm gonna read the back. Simon Snow's the worst chosen one who's ever been chosen. That's what his roommate Baz says, and Baz might be evil and a vampire and a complete git, but he's probably right. Half the time, Simon can even make his own wand work, and the other half, he sets something on fire. His mentor is avoiding him, his girlfriend broke up with him, and there's a magic-eating monster running around wearing Simon's face. Baz would be having a field day with all this if he were here. It's their last year at the Watford School of Magics, and Simon's infuriating nemesis didn't even bother to show up. Carry On is a ghost story, a love story, and a mystery. It has just as much kissing and talking as you expect from a Rainbow Rowell novel, but far, far more monsters. It is a fantasy series, it is LGBTQ, and the relationship between Simon Snow and Baz is amazing, and Simon Snow is one of the characters for me that you will see me talking about all the time on my Instagram. I'll literally just have captions that say, "I love you, Simon Snow," and I'm so excited for the third book, and I hope Simon Snow, yeah, I'm not gonna say more, I don't want to spoil it, but definitely these books, I fell in love. I reread it, I did an entire analysis on it. It is quite the experience. So I'm gonna get this next series out of the way because I just couldn't. I know it's so, everyone has this series on their list, but it really, 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 I can't help it. And that's the Harry Potter series. It's right here. I don't want to get it out because it's the box set and that'd be a lot. But I have the Hogwarts library here. I'm not gonna get into what Harry Potter is about. You all know what's it about, but when I was younger, people would tell me, like, read Harry Potter because they knew I liked to read. And they were like, read Harry Potter. I'm like, no, Harry Potter's too overhyped. I'm not going to read it because I thought it was all cool for not reading Harry Potter. But then I read it. And I kind of, like, got in, like, obsessed. You don't want to see what else is up there. And Harry Potter just feels like home. Harry Potter just feels like home for me. Hogwarts feels like home. I love Draco Malfoy, Neville, all these characters. It just feels like home. The stories are great. Completely, let's not even talk about who wrote them because, anyways, it feels like home, and it has such a big, special place in my heart. I read these during middle school, and it's been the best thing, really, that's ever happened to me. Not really much, it's just, it feels homely to me. So okay, so we're cutting it into the last 2 series. So I said I was gonna say my top 2. Well, I didn't really say that, but my top series, and these 2 next series are my top. So the next one is How to Hang a Witch by Adriana Mather. I think that's how you pronounce it. This series, I think it's a duology. It's so good. It follows Samantha Mather, who just moved to Salem, Massachusetts, the site of the infamous witch trials. It'd be tough for anyone to start over in the middle of high school, but when you're great, add a few more greats to that, grandfather was one of the ones putting the accused witches on trial, your family reputation has a way of preceding you. So Sam isn't entirely surprised when she's targeted by a group of girls known as the Descendants. You can probably guess who their ancestors were, right? Yep, the witches. As if dealing with a checkered family past was enough, Sam finds herself confronted by a handsome and seriously stubborn ghost. And she discovers she's at the center of in a centuries-old curse. Stopping the cycle of evil will mean working with the Descendants and proving her own innocence. But does anyone actually care if Sam is innocent? Or is Salem's deadly history destined to repeat itself? I think it's amazing. It is amazing, and as someone who really loves witchy type stories, because it's just, the entire series is so good. Samantha, great character. The ghost, I forgot his name. Oh my god, that's so Elijah's my book boyfriend. He is my book boyfriend. I am so sorry, but Elijah is my book boyfriend. He's just amazing, and the series is so great. It's so wonderfully told. It'll keep you at the edge of a seat. It's such a quick series, and this one just means so much to me because it's one of a kind, truly. There are more books I want to read that are really witchy, but this is the first one that I've read, and it just was amazing, and I connected with the character so much, and I loved the storyline. I loved everything about it. This book to me is the perfect book, and I couldn't ask for more. So, and last but not least is the Charlotte Holmes series, or A Study in Charlotte series by Brittany Cavallero. I've talked about this before, but I love Sherlock Holmes, especially the BBC show. I mean, I'm a huge, and I still am, a huge John Locke shipper. So you can imagine my feelings throughout the entire series. So when I picked up A Study in Charlotte, which is it follows Jamie Watson, who goes to his school in Connecticut called Sharingford, and believe it or not, also Charlotte Holmes ends up going to that school as well, who is, obviously they are the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. So I'm going to just read this small part for a little bit more of context. But when Sharingford's student dies under suspicious circumstances ripped straight from the most terrifying of Sherlock Holmes stories, Jamie can no longer afford to keep his distance. Jamie and Charlotte are being framed for murder. The relationship between Jamie and Charlotte is so incredibly similar to Sherlock and John from the BBC show, and it really fills my heart with joy. It really fills my heart with joy. But I mean, completely getting rid of that whole idea, Sherlock Holmes and Jamie Watson are just both really lovable characters, even when they have their moments when it's like, you guys are so annoying. But there's a couple books in the series, and kind of, not only do I think the storyline is great, I think the plot is great. I love seeing them kind of go on these little, I don't want to say adventures, but adventures or mysteries and trying to solve them. But we also follow their relationship, and it's so much like Sherlock Holmes and John Watson, and it makes me want to cry. And you know, with Sherlock and John and the BBC show, not really much the actual books by Arthur Conan Doyle, but they are insanely irritating, especially if you're a John Locke shipper. You're like, Jesus Christ, get on with it already. But the relationship is kind of similar in these series, which was really comforting because it reminded me how much I miss Sherlock and reading about it and constantly talking about it. And I read the entire series in like a month, less than a month, and it was just so good. It is just so good. This, my number one. This entire series, it's delicious, it's amazing. I will actually marry this novel, and they are like my best friend. And when I finished the series, I felt empty, and I truly do miss them. So this is really my all-time favorite series and novels. So yeah. So that's all the book series I have that are my all-time top favorites. I've been slouching the entire time, but yeah, I just love all of these books. A lot of them just really have to do with the connection I grew with the characters and the storyline, and just how much I just enjoyed it. The other ones really had a really impactful impact on my life and changed me who I am. But all these book series I completely love, and they hold such a special place in my heart, and I definitely recommend picking all of these up if you're interested. But deduce whatever you want from these being my favorite books. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope that this little video was able to help you guys kind of understand me more, understand my book preferences, understand the type of person I am, because the type of books, you know, people like or dislike, I think can say a lot about them, and not in a negative way. Just people are all different, and sometimes finding out their favorite books can be, getting a light back on me, can be really cool. I really love asking people who read, what's your favorite book? Because I think it says so much about them in that one question. So thank you guys for watching. Again, I'm a new booktuber, so I'm sorry if that's quite obvious. Make sure to click the subscribe button if you want to see more from me. I have a lot more videos planned out just like these, so it would mean a lot for me if you guys could subscribe and hit that like button to see more content of mine. So thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!